All right, thanks for watching. Our storm coverage continues here. We are live to the KGNS app. We're live to the KGNS website. Also broadcasting live to our Facebook page this afternoon, and we're live to our YouTube channel as well. So we will be keeping you informed as Tropical Storm Harold continues to make its way through South Texas. Joining us to talk about what's happening and what we can expect for the rest of the afternoon is KGNS Chief Meteorologist Richard Heatwave Berler. Heatwave, thank you so much for taking the time to kind of tell us what's going on, and if you can kind of take us through the morning as to when Tropical Storm Harold made landfall up to where we are today, right now, that is.
Right around 10 o'clock this morning, it came in a little bit south of Baffin Bay and moved westward south of Rivera and just about directly above Falfurrias. And now the center of it is passing just by to the south of Hebbronville. And the emphasis to the rains is to the west and north of the system. Zapata's kind of on the southern edge of the rains, so they may escape the real heavy rains. Northern Zapata County northward will be in the heavy rains. A lot of our area will end up with over 2 inches of rain. This is what's going on now, and you can see it quickly moves off west of us. So once we get beyond dinner time, 6, 7 o'clock this evening, most of the rains will shift off to the west into Mexico. We will be rather breezy the rest of the afternoon and up through dinner time. Winds may gust to 40 miles per hour. We've already had a 35-mile-per-hour wind gusts in Laredo. Hebbronville had winds gusting to 40 miles per hour, and when the center went just about directly over Falfurrias, they had a 61-mile-per-hour wind gust. Corpus Christi had 62-mile-an-hour winds. Hebbronville, again, the center's just south of Hebbronville, not too far from it. The barometer reading was 29.86 a couple of hours ago. Now they have a barometer reading at 29.64. So that's a good indication that the center of circulation is near Hebbronville, and the counterclockwise flow around it on the north side. If it's a counterclockwise flow, you'd have easterly winds north of the center, and that's what Hebbronville is experiencing. We have northerly winds as the center goes by around dinner time, 7 o'clock. The winds would then shift into the south and southeast in Laredo. And you can see this particular computer model projection, the atmosphere is still kind of moist tomorrow. We'll see some of the sun, temperatures will warm up, but you can see that with the daytime heating, we could still get some scattered showers or thunder showers. It's just not going to be the widespread everybody gets it type of thing as we have seen today, and it won't be windy. And you can see the impact that this has had on our temperatures. We have not gotten above the 80s. It was 86 at midnight. That's the high of the day. It's been in the 70s ever since the rain began. This is the first time we've stayed under 90 all day long since May the 28th, 86 days ago. The heat is north of us now. Even into South Dakota, it's topped 105 degrees, but you can see in our part of the state, 70s. San Antonio is kind of on the edge of this. A few showers getting as far north as them. They're in the 80s, but look at Dallas. They're over 100 degrees. But we're in the 70s with the rain and the windy conditions, 25-mile-per-hour winds gusting to 35, and the winds will pick up some. And this is what has happened over the last 24 hours. The system gained strength over the western Gulf, and now it's moving westward across South Texas, and it's weakening as it does so. The main impact is the wind and especially the rain. To the north of the center, a few spin-up brief tornadoes that last so short in time that once a warning gets out, there's a good chance that it's already lifting up if it even reaches the ground. So for most of us, it's the rain and the breezy conditions of this evening. And you can see how it tracks away from us as we go through tonight and tomorrow and dissipates. And taking a look at a few other things, I have to let this thing finish through its 5 days. And there we go. This is a closer look at the last 24 hours, so you can see how it became more organized, the spiral rain band circulating around its center, and now it's tracking across the central and west central portions of South Texas. And you can clearly see how the rains are mainly to the north and west of the center. Temperatures, well, before we even get to that, winds are gusting 35 to 40 miles per hour now across our area. The temperatures with all the rain in the 70s. We haven't seen an afternoon in the 70s for a long time. Again, the 86 that we had at midnight's the coolest since May the 28th. The winds are sustained at 25 to 30 miles per hour across much of the area. And, of course, it's very humid out there. Yesterday, dew points were around 60. Now, with all this tropical moisture, dew points are practically the same as the temperature. The atmosphere is saturated, and that's why you can get such heavy rainfalls. There's so much moisture in the deep layer of the atmosphere that's very efficient at producing the heavy rains that we're seeing in the area. So this is a closer look at South Texas radar, and you can see that the heavy rain bands are now moving across central and western Webb County, points northward. Zapata, mostly south of all this rain. It's northern Zapata County and points north. As the system kind of crunches against the high terrain to the west, there's a tendency for a little boundary to occur where the easterly winds north of the center will kind of lift over northerly winds just to the west of the center. So that may keep the heavy rains going until we get to around dinner time, and then things move off to the west. And this is a look at my weather map. You can see the system moving off to the north and west as we go through the next couple of days. With some sun tomorrow, the 90s, atmosphere still moist, so some scattered showers. Not in everybody gets a thing, but they'll be out there. And on Thursday, we get a little bit higher up into the 90s. Could get a sea breeze shower, but most places would stay dry. And this is a estimation of the rainfalls that are going to add on to what we've already had. So another inch and a half is quite possible in the Laredo area, and as you go north and west. And the areas that have already had 2 inches of rain, Freer and Hebronville, they're really pretty much out of the rains for the time being. And you can see as we get into tomorrow, a few showers may move in from the east. So taking a look at my forecast, mid-70s overnight, the rains end once we get to early evening. As we go through the 7-day period, with the sun coming out, temperatures warm up. Still a fair chance of a scattered shower, thunder shower tomorrow, but some sun racing us into the mid-90s, and we go up into the upper 90s to 100 once we see more sun as we go through the weekend and even into next week.
I've got several questions for you, Heatwave. Number one, you mentioned the accumulated total 1.5. Is that, have we had more than that since this morning?
Yeah, we've had over an inch. I haven't checked the rain gauge. The airport has had more than 3/4 of an inch of rain, and the airport rain gauge tends to read almost 50% too low. So likely they've really had about 1.25 inches or so, and we'll add another inch or more to that.
Okay. This is a pretty fast-moving storm. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, it's moving west at close to 20 miles per hour. There's a high-pressure system over a deep layer of the atmosphere over the midsection of the country, and the clockwise flow around that on its south side is from east to west. So this is just rolling along with the flow westward at about 20 miles per hour.
So we're going to see just consistent rains. Are we going to see any thunderstorms, any thunder, lightning, or is this just rain?
It's mainly rain, but the lightning detection system does pick up an occasional lightning strike, so that wouldn't be a big surprise. But for the most part, it's a rain and a wind event as we go through the remainder of the afternoon, dinner time.
The winds, how dangerous are the winds?
Well, for the most part, they'll be in the 25 to 30 miles per hour range, but we'll likely see some gusts that could reach or even a little bit top 40 miles per hour.
You also mentioned, Heatwave, that you talked about the tornado warnings. There was one earlier in northeastern Webb County. It was pretty short-lived, right?
Yeah, short-lived, and I guess the whole county got alerted on phone apps and stuff like that, but it was never it wasn't ever close to us. It was really, most of it was occurring north of Freer, near Beeville, south of George West, that whole area. And most tornadoes that do touch down with these systems tend to be to the north and northwest of a west advancing storm. And so most of that is taking place north of our area.
Now, and just for information's sake and for clarification, when people hear a tornado watch and a tornado warning, what's the difference?
A watch means the ingredients are there, kind of like if I showed up to a kitchen with all the ingredients for a meal. Well, the conditions are there, the ingredients are there, so you have a watch. You look to see if they come together to form a meal. Yeah. In my case, they probably wouldn't. I'm not a cook. But if a cook showed up and made a meal, then you have a meal and you'd have a meal warning, or in the case of a tornado warning. It means it's been observed. A lot of these warnings, though, especially for these tropical systems, which aren't like Great Plains supercell 50,000 foot tall storms that last for a half hour or an hour, these are usually a few minutes in duration. The warnings are usually issued based on radar out of just trying to be careful. Most of these aren't confirmed, but the radar suggests that you might be having a tornado. You see the circulation on the radar. The radar beam is usually several thousand feet above the ground, so it's kind of hard to tell if the funnel's actually reaching the ground.
So a warning doesn't necessarily mean that there's one on the ground, per se.
Not, yeah, it doesn't always mean it. And usually the Weather Service will say radar suggested or radar detected versus a weather spotter has seen it and reported it.
Now, looking at this traffic camera at I-35 at Shiloh, that's looking pretty gloomy there. That's pretty dark.
Oh yeah, it's coming down pretty good.
Yeah, that looks kind of serious. Anyway, now, and in all seriousness, for time's sake, as far as people's schedules, now a lot of people were let go early, so hopefully they're home and safe. When is the most rain expected? What's the most dangerous time to be out, really?
I think now is from now all the way through 6 o'clock or so, maybe even up to 7, and then it should all pretty much be west of us. And if you see any barriers put up for, because we already have urban flooding going on in the places where the water tends to accumulate, it's coming down faster in some locations than it can be drained away. So don't go through barriers, and if you can't tell how deep the water is, because it's real hard to tell how deep the water is, turn around. You don't want to be stuck.
Well, we're looking at most of these cameras are within the city limits, and so you don't see the flooding that you might see within the city, and like you mentioned, the urban flooding. So, but you're saying from now, but you see the water there already accumulating in the little creek there. So it's coming down.
Oh yeah, and this is something you want to take seriously. People can get stranded in their vehicles, and in the worst case, sometimes the vehicle can start floating.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to, if you're at home now, best bet is to just stay home and wait for this to make its way through Laredo.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And once we get beyond 7 o'clock this evening, things ought to be improving.
Obviously, if you have the luxury to do that, if people are out there working, try to stay somewhere without having to leave the house until that hour that you mentioned, like about 7 o'clock. Maybe it'll all have gone past. Yeah,
7 and beyond ought to be improving, possibly even a little bit faster than that.
All right, Richard Heatwave Berler, KGNS Chief Meteorologist. Heatwave, if we need to drag you back in here, we'll do that. But it looks like you've got everything under control, and we will see you at 5 o'clock on KGNS. Thanks, Heatwave. God bless you.
Thanks.
All right, so let me just take a look at some more traffic cameras for you. This is, again, I-35 at Lafayette. You heard Heatwave mentioned that probably now between 6:30 is when we're going to see most of this rain go through the gateway city. So just keep that in mind. So many closures will be. I will direct you to the KGNS website as all of the places that have been closed today. We listed those on the KGNS website. So any information you need about the storm today is on KGNS.TV or on the KGNS app. Look at those photos. Obviously, we have a reporter out in the field, Lucely Garza. Perhaps if we can check in with her later to see what things are looking like within the city, because again, this is mostly the highways, mostly the loop, and so you don't see a lot of that flooding that you would within the city. So just stay safe out there. And if you don't need to go out, don't go out. We will have plenty more for you. We will check in here on the digital news desk periodically if we need to come back and let you know what's happening. But this is the current situation. Again, if you had the ability to go home early today, then just stay there until this passes, which, if you heard Heatwave, that could be between 6:30 and 7 o'clock. What else can I tell you? We got the newscasts coming up in just a little bit. Telemundo will be on the air at 4:30. We're going to do a Spanish live here in about 40 minutes. So if you know somebody that needs this information in Spanish, we'll be on at about 4 o'clock. We will probably get Miguel Amante in here to talk about what's happening. But we can, you can access that through the digital news desk stream. Actually, you cannot. No, you can. And also, well, let me think about this. You may not be able to catch it on the website. You will be able to catch it on the Telemundo Facebook page. So if you're looking for Spanish coverage, we will have Spanish coverage on the Telemundo Facebook page, also on our YouTube channel. So if you're not on our YouTube channel, go to our YouTube channel and we will have some Spanish coverage for you in just a little bit. Trying to orchestrate that here for you as the afternoon progresses. All right, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Have a blessed afternoon. Be safe out there. If you don't need to leave the house, just don't leave the house.